Hi everyone, today I'm going to be giving my presentation on overfishing in the Galapagos Islands. On the second slide of the PowerPoint you can see a map of the Galapagos. There's 11 islands, not all of them are populated. It's located off of the western coast of Ecuador, and they're developed over millions of years of lava formations, so that's what creates this really interesting kind of pattern. All of the islands are very different. On the third slide, a little bit about the history. The Galapagos Islands was colonized in 1835, and there's a lot of different attractions for scientific exploration due to the fragmented landscapes. Like I said, each island is very different. All the very vast endemic flora and fauna, its separation from the equator and Ecuador, and the reputation of Charles Darwin and its link to evolution, this living laboratory and how it was linked to human evolution makes it a really, really amazing place to study different species and animals from all over the world, but how it's been produced, how it's been preserved in the Galapagos. In 1973, it was declared an official province of the Ecuadorian government, so it is owned by Ecuador. And one of the most fascinating facts about the Galapagos is that it's one of the few places in the world that still maintains about 95% of its original species. Compared to terrestrial wildlife, the deep sea marine life and marine flora and fauna have not been as well studied. And studies have shown that the living laboratory that we've said is beginning to change with altered biological communities and a decline in marine species, and this is being noticed through various different studies. An alarming fact is that in 2007, UNESCO and the International Union for Conservation of Nature concluded that Galapagos should be added to the list of World Heritage in danger. So this is something that is a big concern. We need to preserve these species and this marine life in these islands that are in danger. This is a picture of Galapagos Islands in Isabela. I was there over the summer, which is what sparked my interest to study this further and write my paper on it and this presentation. So you can see here, this is just, in the oceans going out to go snorkeling, one of the protected areas that's only open to fishermen by the Galapagos Marine Reserve. This next slide here is Union Rock, which is a lava formation that has come out of the ocean, and birds hang out on top of it, and it's just a lot of really interesting places and a lot of it's a different type of beauty in the Galapagos. So fishing in the Galapagos has existed over the past 2 centuries. It began with large whale poaching. In the 40s and 50s, it focused more on grouper and saltfish. In the 20th century, there was a large wave towards lobster and finfish. And fishing grew in the 70s and 80s towards lobster fishing for international markets. And then finally in the 90s, it grew towards sea cucumbers and illegal shark fin fishing. In Santa Cruz and Isabela, that's where the major fishing fleets are run. In the past 2 decades, we've seen a larger extraction of certain species, and this has grown substantially. And the sea cucumber industry, what really drives it is the demand from the Chinese. They use the seafood as an aphrodisiac, and they're willing to pay exorbitant amounts of money to extract the sea cucumbers and pay for them from the Galapagos. So the economic success of the Galapagos has created an extreme influx of immigration to the islands. It's compared to the gold rush. A lot of people are leaving mainland Ecuador to come to the Galapagos to seek opportunities, whether it be through fishing or tourism. And studies have shown that climate change and fishing is creating a vast impact on marine life for species persistence, that it's showing that they're not able to recover as well. The government has been aware and is involved. In 1986, the Marine Reserve was established, which limits the exploitation of marine life. They established a 29,000 square mile area of protection, and in 1999 they increased it to 51,000 square miles. They imposed a lot of strict migratory laws. Not everyone can move to the Galapagos. It's difficult. There's a new inspection and quarantine system and enhanced ecosystem protection. They also developed this participatory management board which monitors the fishing, collects data, and negotiates the fishing seasons, rules, and quotas. The Ecuadorian government and the Darwin Institute do conduct population surveys and species densities across the islands to monitor what's happening on the islands. They've imposed these fishing bans where it dictates when the lobster season can run, for example, or the sea cucumber season can run. But you can see here in this next statistic, in 2000, a total of 119,932 pounds of lobster were caught in just half the season. So this is a really large amount of marine life that is being extracted in a very short period of time. So even these bans, they'll place 3-year bans on sea cucumbers, which recently opened up this summer after a 3-year ban. But the species are just not able to properly recover because of this just large amount of overfishing. This is a picture of Puerto Villamil, Isabela. You can see how communities are sparking up. They have houses and they build all kinds of hostels and hotels for all the tourists. So this is another drive that is a conflicting interest in the islands. The fishing industry is a large industry. It earns about $6 million a year for the Ecuadorian economy. And in 2005, from 1999 to 2005, over 30 million sea cucumbers have been caught, totaling 8,000 tons of live weight, which is huge. And local or artisanal fishermen must be a resident of the Galapagos and registered with the fishing cooperatives in order to fish. However, commercial fishing, which is illegal in the Galapagos, is still in competition with local fishermen because their focus is on exporting and gaining economically. And so that drives the illegal fishing in the Galapagos, which I'll mention in a second. So what's happening, which is creating the problem in overfishing, is that it's creating a weakened predatory control from lobsters on sea urchin populations, which have increased grazing pressure and loss of macroalgae and corals. So what's happening is the overfishing of sea cucumbers and lobsters is then creating too many sea urchins, which are then overgrazing the corals and preventing plants and animals on rocky reefs to survive. So larvae and recently growing juveniles aren't able to establish a grounding to recover because all of the lobsters and sea cucumbers are overfished and not able to eat all the sea urchins, which are then hurting the corals. Illegal fishing, which is another big problem, is that the commercial fishing industry and illegal fishing is very difficult to control. It's difficult to enforce these laws. For example, there's 38 species of sea cucumbers, and there's only one that can be legally harvested. However, they're finding at least 3 types of sea cucumbers that are being harvested because they have overfished the legal one. And enforcement is weak. Fines for illegal fishing are not enough to deter the illegal fishing. It's easier to pay the fine and to illegally fish than to not do it. They can local fishermen can make a lot more money working with the commercial fishermen and fishing illegally than if they were to do it legally. So they make $71 per month. They can make over $100 per month for fishing for sea cucumber, shark, and lobsters for Chinese buyers. You see here in this last picture a lot of different conflicting interests. You have a bar built on this pier going into the beach. Tourism and a lot of different people are creating a lot of drives for the fishing industry and the tourist industry. Santa Cruz fishing port, you see here the boats, everything lives in unison, and it's just a really important area to protect. So really the discussion, and this is also the conclusion, is that there's a lot of different drives creating a conflict between the environment, economy, and people. It's estimated that the local population will double between 2017 and 2024, so this problem isn't going away. It's really a big issue between profiting for the short term, allowing a lot of people to come and fish out all the sea cucumbers and everything, and then what happens when all these species have gone extinct, or going for the long term, regulating it, maybe not making as much money, but we're preserving this habitat and environment. But in order to really discuss and reach an agreement, we have to really focus on all the competing interests between environmentalists, fishermen, government, outside markets, and residents of the island, which is not an easy compromise to reach because everybody has their own interests and gains. That's it for my presentation. Thank you.